All right, so this is what a typical electronics assembly line looks like. Um, I worked on an assembly line just like this in Las Vegas for quite a while. A couple years I worked there, kind of manning these different stations. And I'm going to explain kind of how things work at each stage of the assembly line. There's three main machines here. There's a machine that applies solder paste to your circuit board. And so if I come back to this circuit board, all of these pads, anywhere that I see a pad, that's where a component would be soldered. Okay. The holes are different. Usually, if there's a hole, you have to solder those by hand. I think there are some machines that can do through hole soldering as well. But for the general case, any of these pads that you see, there's a machine that will actually go and apply solder paste to each and every pad on the circuit board. Okay. And so that happens at this machine right here. You can see these sort of conveyor belts, and then there's like stations where you hit the button and it'll pass the circuit board into the machine, and then you'd come over here and it would feed it out into the next machine and so on. But the three main machines here, again, solder paste application. So inside here, this machine will apply solder paste to each and every component. Solder paste is basically, I actually have it on the next slide. This is what solder paste looks like. It's a bunch of small balls in it's a bunch of basically metallic balls in the form of a paste. It's not yet solidified. And then what happens is once it hits a certain temperature, it will heat up, it'll become liquid, and then when you let it cool, it will re-solidify, and you get solder joints like this, where this is now just a strong metal connection that holds the part in place permanently, right? These are resistors. These are all surface mount resistors. And so once the solder paste is applied, and if you add enough heat to it, so this is basically steps 1 and 2 right here. This is really the entire assembly line right here. Actually, I probably should have put this slide first, but let's go back over here. So the solder paste gets applied. So I would put in my circuit board, and inside this machine, this is exactly what would happen. It would place solder paste on all the pads of my circuit board, right? And so then the next machine here is the component placement machine. This is usually called the pick and place machine. Pick and place, because that's exactly what it does. It picks up parts and places them on the circuit board. And so in between these two states here, there's basically an intermediate state where these resistors are actually sitting in this paste here, but not yet solidified, right? This metal is still in the paste form. And so the pick and place machine's job is to come and grab all the components. All these circles right here are reels of components. You can look up component reels. You'll see that basically what you have on a component reel, if you were to unreel it, is you have some tape and it'll be separated, something like this. And then in each segment, there will be a component there. So this might be a resistor, another resistor, another resistor, and so on. And so the pick and place machine comes and it grabs a resistor. It uses a little vacuum nozzle. It'll pick up a resistor, and then it'll move and place that resistor exactly where it's supposed to go on your circuit board. Pick and place machines are absolutely awesome. Okay, so we've got through 2 of these. We send our board in with no paste on it. The solder paste is applied to every pad. Then once solder paste is applied, we send that board into a pick and place machine. The pick and place machine takes the parts from these reels and places them on my circuit board. And then once that's done, we send it into a reflow oven. This is called a reflow oven, and that's where the soldering actually occurs. And so inside the oven, the temperature gets high enough that this solder paste actually turns into liquid metal. And then once you cool it, it goes right back into solid metal, and it is then actually holding the component permanently and also making an electrical connection to the circuit board. So you can see that the pad here, it has a trace coming in. That's where the electrical current would be flowing. And then you have your pad here. Your resistor is here. Obviously, this is my resistor. and then it might go through this resistor and then into this trace and throughout my PCB. Same with this one, comes in, here's my resistor right here, and then it comes out and goes into my PCB, right? And so that's kind of how the manufacturing and assembly line works. I've got, again, my board comes in, paste is applied, board comes out, parts are applied, and then my parts with the paste come out, go into the oven, and then at the end they come out and you let them cool, and then they are ready to go. And so here's a picture from my experience working in at Vorpal Research Systems in Las Vegas, building a bunch of boards. You can see that the PCBs actually come in panels. So this is a panel with 18 circuit boards on it, and we were just cranking them out. And you can see that there's a microcontroller on here, a bunch of passive components, and these parts were sitting, cooling after they had been soldered using the reflow oven. Okay, I've got my last slide here of references for all the stuff that I used in this module. Want to definitely make sure that I keep that in there because I used some figures from various books and websites, but that wraps up EE220 lecture material. I'm so thankful that we were able to get through this material, and that I certainly hope everybody learned a lot from the lecture material. And I'm just going to go ahead and end this video here. This has been really exciting, and best of luck on the final exam. I'm going to go ahead and end this video.